and 2 and 1. Hello there. So here we are. I'm going to show you how to do a bit of pair programming using Cloud9 and a Hangout. I've also got the other critical component, which is my pair partner, Michael. Michael, do you want to say hello to everyone?
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Michael. Really appreciate you helping me out. So we're here in a Hangout together. The key thing I'm going to use is this screen share operation. I'm going to share a screen that I have here. It's got my Cloud9 programming environment set up. We're going to be working on the Ruby intro assignment. And so this is just a blank workspace. I'm going to start off by cloning the assignment into here. So we'll do git clone like so. And that'll grab me in. Yep. And what I want to do is give my pair partner access to this environment. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the URL there, and I'm going to pop that into the chat environment so Michael can easily jump into that. I'm also going to click this share button up here, and I'm going to try and invite Michael there. Let me see if I can remember Michael's. Is there an underscore in your?
No.
No. Okay, let's see if we do that. Yes. Okay. And so I've got read-write access.
You need to do that to get write access.
Yeah, that's right. So I think Michael had read access automatically because the editor by default was public. Now, if you could, Michael, maybe you could just share your screen, and so I can show everybody the two different views that we end up getting as a result of doing this. So this is Michael's screen here, so you can see pretty much. So you've switched the background to a different view or different skin. Good show. Or oh right, that was you were looking at my screen, and then this is your screen. Yes.
Yes. I think this is the default.
Okay.
I assume.
Yeah, and I'll just do here in the environment. I'll see if I'll type a little command. And the interesting thing is, if you open that, if you open the README file, Michael, just open that one. Maybe open
access to your terminal.
Yeah, I think you don't automatically get access to my terminal.
Okay.
That's one of the things where I think there is a way to do it. That's why the screen share through the Google Hangout, not just for the audio, so that we can see each other's terminals, is particularly valuable. But the key thing is that I guess that Michael can also edit the files here. So I'm going to, on my side, open. We've got the the Ruby intro file here that both Michael and I are looking at. If you'd just like to make some, put a comment in there on your side, Michael, just so we can see the joint editing taking place. Make sure that that's working. So we can see here there that the Michael's cursor is indicated by a little. He's actually had a mouse over it. He's got his cursor in that file, and so it might take a little time for his edits to come through to me. But we're now
still in read only.
You think you're still in read only? Let me just check the share settings. It says that you're in read write.
It just told me your workspace access has been limited to read only.
Yeah, I just changed it. I turned it on and off again.
Reload it. You have been granted. Okay.
Yeah. There was also a little grant thing here in the collaborate thing on the side here. So anyhow, with a little playing around between the share and the collaborate buttons, you can usually get it. So there we go. So Michael's now able to edit that environment. So we're in the Hangout. We can hear each other. Let's see how we might get started on the Ruby intro. What I often like to do.
Now I have access to your bash.
As well. So now if I do ls or there, yes, as well. And that's a new feature. Excellent. So we're sharing the same terminal. Good show. So if we go and have a little look at the first thing that we might work on in the Ruby intro homework is about defining a method SumArray that takes an array of integers as an argument and returns the sum of its elements. An empty array should return 0. And there's some associated tests that we can run with that. What I often like to do is just put a sort of a comment in here to sort of what we're working on. Ultimately, you know, we don't like comments. So
we'd probably run the tests first, right?
Well, this is the thing: is that for in the MOOC, the tests haven't actually been introduced. So we've got these spec files as well. This is a new thing. So far, we've only been talking about Ruby, and this is like a sort of a little taster of things that are likely to come. So I'll just remove Michael's little comment there. There is a mechanism for running these tests, and so you can run the tests that are associated with this part of the assignment by using this command rspec. I'll just have to do here. I'll have to run this command. Well, I'll have to do gem install bundle. Is it bundler? In order to make sure that bundler is in there, and then I can run bundle. And this is another little sort of side thing. We've got this gem file that specifies other Ruby libraries that we might need, as well as the version of Ruby. And so now rspec, which is a testing environment that we'll be using throughout the course, is going to be available. So now, as a result, I should be able to run rspec on the command line, and I can run just a particular set of the tests to check that this particular method we want is working. Now, let's see. This is this other thing we encounter here is if I try and increase the size of the terminal here, because I'm sharing the terminal with Michael, we now have a limited size. But if Michael also increases the size, then we can see a bit more. So if Michael's seeing that I can do that, we can go there. It's annoying, and then annoying that we can't necessarily scroll in there. Sometimes you might want to set up separate terminals for yourself. But we can see here that we get two failures here. So it says Ruby intro part 1, sum returns correct sum, 20 points, and it says failure error. Expect this to return a number, to return a kind of fixed num. Now the challenge with this, for those of you just starting with Ruby, is these error messages may not necessarily make much sense. And so if you're like, oh, don't want to look at that yet, you can just start quite easily with working on here and thinking about, okay, we've got this method sum, we've got an array argument. We would like to have it so that it takes an array of integers as an argument and returns the sum of its elements. The tests are a mechanism that we'll be using to grade your assignments to make sure that they do the right things. You can check that locally if you want, but you can feel free to ignore them. But what I might do to show you the kind of idea of the tests, but just in sort of simple Ruby, is I might write a little test of my own here, which is I might say that let's raise an error. We'll say sum like so does not equal to 0. I'm going for the corner case here, which is this: for an empty array, it should return 0. So I'm just going to actually roll my own little testing environment here, and I'm going to check, does the sum method, when it's passed an empty array, does that return a 0? So although we can use the rspec, we can, and perhaps this is simpler and easier, we can just run our Ruby file like this and see if we get an error. And in fact, we do. So this is my own little hand-rolled testing thing. And so we can see it says here, oh, well, when we call the method sum, we in fact don't get a 0. And so often the way that I like to pair it with Michael's, sometimes we pair, we change roles on the test. So I've been the driver so far. We've got a little error. So Michael, would you like to be the driver, and I'll become the navigator and see if you can make my test pass? Aha.
So I'll run it again.
Yeah.
There's no error. So, but
That's
now
right.
I could write a test for Sam.
Yes, you could. Go ahead.
Is this called one undermanship or something?
Yes, it is.
I don't know whether they learned about that yet, but
they haven't. But it's mentioned in the instructions.
So, for instance, that will break the hard coding.
Yes.
Potentially.
Absolutely.
Save that. Now Sam has to do something to try to fix that test.
Yes, and so we can see that we've got another little problem here. A couple of things introduced here. So Michael has gone with just only doing the very minimum amount of work to make my test pass, which I think can be very confusing for some not novices to this sort of Ruby environment, or sort of driving code through tests. It's actually a great way of ensuring that you only ever write the minimum amount of code, and you don't write unnecessarily complex things. And we'll see more about it later
Or
on.
rather, that everything that you code has a corresponding assertion or test somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, yes, we'll see more about that later. Of course, this is also, it's sort of a corner case where we're just this situation for the empty array. But so now what Michael has cleverly done here is he's written a new test that actually exposes the weakness, or exposes the weakness in my original test to say it needs to do more than this. So I could now do something here. Like I could say return 0 if array empty, and I could expose the flaw in Michael's test by just hard coding a 1 in there, and then I can run this file here, and no errors are being thrown, but still we don't have a wonderfully good piece of code. But this is all the code that we require to actually pass these tests so far. So I've just become the driver again. Michael was the navigator. We can swap back over. Michael, would you like to drive now and see if? Oh, actually, sorry. I need to add. Not only do I need to make your test pass, I need to add a new test that exposes the flaws. So now let's take a different one, like so, and like that, and run that and see if we get an error, and we do.
Okay.
So yes, let's swap roles again. Over to you, Michael. What do you want to do there?
Well, we could imagine that we could continue on in this way, but and now at some point,
yes,
you want to break from this pattern.
We do. I guess you want to add an additional test.
Yes. I mean, I'm going to cheat and peek in here.
You're looking in the RSpecs.
Yes. Okay. That would be -2, I think. My math is right.
-2. That looks right. Now I noticed that you've got a slight error earlier on in line 19, where, oh well, it's not going to turn up as an error because it's in the string, but you've got an extra parenthesis on about just after the -5 in the string portion of line 19.
Oh, yeah, but that's not actually.
No, it wouldn't cause errors. So, there we go. Okay, so now clearly this can then go on and on and on. Usually, if you can, having explored this as a way of developing your test case, then if you can see, is there a way to make this simpler and make this work for all these different cases, then you can go ahead and do it. So what I might do here is I might go for the Ruby array documentation, which we've got linked to in various places. We want to make sure we want to get in for, well, that's Ruby 2, but let's go in there for 3. So we've got these arrays. There's all sorts of things we can do on them. One of the things that's good to be aware of is we can also run a little IRB terminal like so, and we can get like a little test array, and we can imagine what kind of things might we want to run on it. I think there's a length method like so on. We've got the empty method. This is great for trying things out. I'll also show you can in fact, I think, load up the file that you're working with. Do we need the RB in there? Maybe not. So no. Anyway, do I need to have the?
Maybe require.
Ruby intro. I wonder if it's that we have to do load
lib. I mean, usually that.
Okay. Oh, and in fact, that one's worked there, but we've actually got our runtime error being raised in the test environment there. I just wanted to do that to show that we can actually run now our sum method from the IRB environment there if we wanted to. But so lots of different bits and pieces there. The IRB, great for playing around. You need the full path name in order to load your files into it if you want to sort of play around with them there. But let's do a refactoring now where we, I guess I could just fix this one test, which is that we could return -2 here if the if we had exactly this array. But we can see how, you know, ultimately it ends up being ridiculous. You know, you end up with sort of a lookup table for all the different cases. We could have a much shorter way of doing this, which would be if we pull in array like so, and then there's a nice method which is inject or reduce, which will allow us to sum all the different elements. And we should see now here that that also works. So
if you get rid of line 11, it might still work.
Well, that's interesting. Yes, let's try. Well, do you want to do that? That's another refactoring step. We've got all of our tests passing. Michael, you want to try removing that line and see if they will pass?
Just comment it out.
Yeah, sure.
No.
But I think there's a small change that we can make here. Indeed, I think the zero needs to come first. But so we can look up in the array. We can look at the there's the inject method. I think it's not part of an array. It's actually part of the enumerable class.
Enumerable module.
Yeah, module. Sorry. And yeah, we can see inject, and you can put the sort of starting default value in there. So that's worked, has it?
Yes.
Excellent. So I think we've got a pretty solid first method and a very Ruby-ish
solution to the first problem.
Absolutely, and we've shown how to do the ping pong. We've also shown here how to do kind of our little own hand rolled testing thing to sort of drive the generation of our code through tests. If we just have a quick look at the RSpec for part 1, we can see that there's various bits of code that may not make sense yet because you haven't seen RSpec. That'll be introduced later in the course. But effectively, what's happening here is this is a framework to make checks, a bit like the ones that we've done there. What we should be able to do now is if we can go back to running, did I run the RSpecs before? Where were they? Here we go. If I run the RSpecs there, what we should see now is we get this nicely formatted output saying that the sum, the method should be defined, that the correct sum is returned, and that it works on the empty array. And you can see how, although it may have been checking similar things with our little raise exceptions, RSpec has the advantage of nicely formatting all of these things. So there we go. That's, I think, about all we need to show. Yeah, thank you so much, Michael, for helping me demonstrate how this all works. And yeah, I hope everybody will have lots of fun with their pairing. All right, bye for now.